Hi, I'm Debbie Fridge Albright, and for my research paper I chose Christopher Marlowe and his play, Dr. Faustus. I chose Christopher Marlowe because he was such an interesting character at a time in Elizabethan society when religion was so important, and the circumstances surrounding his death are very questionable. A colleague of Marlowe's, Thomas Kidd, was arrested for possession of what looked to be a 3-page treatise on atheism. The thought is that Kidd could have probably proven that this was not a paper on atheism, but that it was really a defense of theistic or Unitarian doctrines. But he chose to go ahead and implicate Marlowe, even though he didn't say that Marlowe was the actual writer. He just said that he received the papers from Marlowe. And so the thought was he was so angry at Marlowe having turned him in at a certain point to the Privy Council that he went ahead and implicated Marlowe. Marlowe's atheism caused him to be an outcast but his possible past was that he might have been a spy for the Queen's Secret Service, so that may have actually kept him out of jail when he was writing questionable atheist writings. And he was arrested on May 29th, 1593, but he wasn't actually put in jail. He was on probation, but he was arrested for the foulest blasphemy and the association of cut purses and masterless men. One of the quotes to the Privy Council was by Richard Baines, who'd reported that "I think all men of Christianity ought to endeavor that the mouth of so dangerous a man as Marlowe must be stopped." So that kind of added a question as to why Marlowe was killed on May 30th, just the day after he was arrested, by a man named Ingram Fritzer. One motivation, and the one that they say officially, was that he was wounded in a bar fight and killed by Fritzer in self-defense. But there's also the belief that this could have been a premeditated assassination of Marlowe because, number one, no physician was called. Two, the only witnesses to this act were two disreputable friends of the man, Fritzer, who was charged with the killing. Supposedly, the position of Marlowe was that he was lying on a cot and facing the other direction, which sort of makes the idea that this was an argument face-to-face a little bit suspicious. Neither of the witnesses were tried to interfere in the fight, and the coroner did not question anyone else at the tavern after the fight, and he didn't check with the owner. It's possible to believe that Marlowe was murdered in a drunken sleep, actually, and that the coroner was influenced not to really question anyone because this man was an atheist and he was such an outcast. Marlowe's writing showed an amazing promise, and they wonder if he'd lived longer, if he'd have written more very interesting topics. He was popular with society as a less wealthy man who'd become educated, so this really appealed probably to the middle class who weren't really a middle class yet, but were impressed by a self-made man. He was the son of a merchant, and he received a scholarship to Cambridge, ironically, in the ministry. Dr. Faustus, the play that I chose to research, deals with the tragedy of a successful self-made man, similar to Marlowe, who chooses to sell his soul to the devil for 24 more years of godlike power. Strangely religious, considering he was an atheist, this work showed that Marlowe could write a work that would deal with the Christian topic of temptation and salvation that would have resonated with the Elizabethan society at the time. It's an interesting play dealing with the 7 deadly sins and the ability of a man to both seek forgiveness or be given forgiveness by God. It has a few areas that jump back into the medieval thought about sin and God's forgiveness, and then it also resonates with the people of the Elizabethan period and a more forgiving God. Thank you.